Great. It looks like we are going. We are operating. Cecil, hi.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Should we talk about a movie?
Oh, yes. A nice uplifting film about family and orphans, I guess.
Sure. Happy belated Mother's Day is the
It's a
thing.
hard knock life.
All right, let's see here. It looks like I'm just double checking my stream. Yes, it looks like we're going. Great. Well, let's get us started with an intro and we'll go from there. Sorry, you guys. I was just telling Cecil as I was starting this. I rebooted my computer about 10 minutes before 3, and it took a little while. So give me a second as I'm vamping. Finally, there we go. All right. So though I like the sentiment behind the term red flag, I don't think it's always the right term the way we use it in modern parlance. Like a red flag, for instance, in NASCAR means to stop. Like we are done here. This, at least for a bit, this track is not safe to drive on, so we're pausing. But like red flag in a relationship metaphor usually means take heed. For example, if he says Pulp Fiction is his favorite film, that's a red flag. Or if he's holding up a fish he caught in his dating profile, that's a red flag. I mean, sure, you could see those as signs that you want to stop all progress this way, and that's fair if you don't like those things and you don't want to deal with them. But I think like traffic lights might be a better metaphor than flags. For instance, if a guy says he's a Republican, that's a red light, as in, stop, we are not proceeding. But if a guy says he likes sports, that's a yellow light because, like, I don't know what sports and how intensely. I mean, you might find out he's pretty chill about it, or you might find out he paints his face every Sunday in team colors and screams vulgarities at referees. Proceed with caution. Yellow light. Green light, of course, is all the positive or neutral stuff you don't think you need to worry about. He has nice skin. She dresses well. They like books, etc. Doesn't mean those qualities are guaranteed to be good things. It just means that they're things you probably don't have to worry about. Green light. Keep going. I thought about this red, yellow, green light thing while watching this month's Patreon movie, Goodnight Mommy. Listen, almost everything in a horror film is at minimum a yellow light, but this is a movie that plays on your sympathies. It wants you to pick a side because halfway in, it's going to flip your loyalty on its head. But not me. My traffic signal was clear as day about these two boys. I didn't trust them for 1 second. You collect giant roach bugs in an aquarium? Yellow light, boys. That's a yellow light. And when your cat dies, you clean out said aquarium and float the cat corpse in it. That is a red light for me, dog. Actually, let's go back to red flag. That's a red flag. This track is not safe. Everyone stop. We're done here. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
You grew up in prime auto racing country. Did you ever
Oh,
go
yeah.
to a race of any sort? NASCAR or dirt track?
No, no,
No,
I
you've
did.
never
Nope,
been to a
never
car
did.
race.
My parents, my mom and dad, one of their post-college jobs was actually to run lights and sound at a drag strip, like at a small little dragway, a drag strip, dragway. I don't
Yeah,
drag
sure.
racing,
Yeah,
not the drag queen kind of drag racing, but
right,
actual drag racing.
right.
But I think they were like, yeah, we're good. We'll
Okay,
leave this behind in our 20s.
okay. But you never went out to the racetrack or anything like
No,
that.
I don't think I did.
My dad was very into racing, so I went to lots of go-kart races and like funny
Oh.
car races and dirt track races. I don't think I ever made it to a NASCAR race because there wasn't a NASCAR stadium near where I
Mm.
lived. You're not far from Bristol. I think you're probably an hour and a half
Yep.
drive to Bristol.
Yep.
Maybe that's a good one.
Well, now
Um,
wait. Have you ever seen a monster truck rally?
I have been to a monster truck rally
Damn it!
before.
You're one up on me because I
I
gotta
s-
say the
yeah.
mom in this movie, if she's a monster truck, and these two children are like little drag strip drag race cars
Hmm.
zooming around doing crazy shit,
Yep.
and she's just like smashing shit until, well, she gets captured, I guess. I don't know where this metaphor is going.
Monster truck rally. I don't remember. It must have been the old like reunion arena in Dallas that we went to. I can't remember what facility it was in, but that was where when I was probably 6 or something, my
Oh.
dad's friend Frank, I was complaining that I wanted a Coke. My dad didn't want to get up and go get a Coke while things were happening. And Frank was like, I have a Coke. And he handed me his giant glass and let me take and I took a big chug and it was straight up gross ass beer.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was the
Ooh.
most awful, like,
Blech.
yeah, middle-aged dude prank on a kid.
Oh God. Ugh. Yeah. Ugh. Although I always loved the ads for the monster truck rallies. Was it you pay for the whole seat, but you'll only use the edge, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, that's a good one.
That's
It's
some
a
classic 80s commercial right there.
dead classic. Then I should get a discount on that seat. I'm not
Right?
using the whole thing.
20% off.
Oh man, this movie. I do have to say that
Oof.
I didn't know the twist. No, not the. It's not really a twist because it's like halfway through the power dynamic changes in this movie. But I did have this feeling from the get go. I remember when you and I watched Rift
Mm-hmm.
early on in this movie. I was remembering what you were saying
You were
about
like,
Einar in in Rift, and right up front with this movie, the whole idea that you have twin boys, you have these two twin boys, Elias and Lucas, and Mother doesn't talk to Lucas or look at him
mm-hmm.
or make food for him or give him lemonade or whatever that was she served them. I'm like, Lucas, you're dead, or you're
You are
not
clearly
real.
dead.
You're either dead or not real. Like you don't have
Yeah.
an actual brother. I don't.
I
What did that sit with you at the very beginning? Sorry, I'm just going to start this movie with the spoiler.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
I when it was when Mom got cut open and the cockroaches or the stink bugs came out, I was like, magical realism.
Yeah.
I was like, I know where I'm at right now. Everything else before that was very just European, just
Mhm.
generically, dour,
Yeah.
terse,
Yeah.
quiet, fraught with tension, like anything you'd get from European cinema. But as soon as the sort of like unusual shit started happening, I'm like, okay, we are clearly in one of these characters' psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Well, they definitely start. They have some kind of rubric or checklist for horror tropes because at the beginning we get one kids singing.
Yep.
They're singing a lullaby. When we do actually see them, they're creepy looking Austrian, like scary. This is like Sound of
Creepy
Music.
twin kids.
Yeah.
It's like
Era.
if The Sound of Music and The Shining
Yeah.
made a terrible movie, it would be this movie.
Yeah. It's the type of people that if you saw a photo of these people, you'd be like, "What was your family's politics in 1941?"
Oh, you're talking about sorry. You're talking about the weird German Austrian postcard.
Yeah,
Okay,
where they're all
gotcha.
yeah, the later kids in later hosen or whatever. Yeah, and the lyric that I wrote down for the song is "Tomorrow morn, if God deems, you will wake from your dreams." Like that is some dark ass lullaby shit. So we get creepy kids, we get singing, we get Austrian 1930s Austrian family, and then we get kid running through a cornfield. Check.
Yep. Great. Feral children. Love it.
By the way, what was this? I meant to look this up before we started, but what was this like? So they run through the cornfield. There's it's Elias running through the cornfield. His identical twin brother Lucas scares him, like kind of jumps out of nowhere.
Right.
They're playing tag basically. And then they run off, and then it's just a lot of them playing outside. They end up on this really squishy land. Is that just like, are they just on the aquifer? Is that some type of name, or do we have any geologists here that can describe to us what
is that like a peat bog or something?
Yeah. It was cool looking. It
Some
looked
sort
fun.
of weird Austrian farming technique. I don't know.
So yeah, the Rue brings up like the cornfield throw anybody else off. As I had that same question of like, I don't know the landscape of Austria, and if you were to have before this movie said describe the landscape of Austria, I would have been like Alps. I would have been like tall, sharp, rocky hills with snow caps. And this very much, to Rue's point, looks a lot like Kansas. It's
I
slightly rolling grassy fields and hay bales and cornfields and stuff.
I think that's pretty, Germany, Austria is kind of considered the sort of breadbasket of Europe.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's quite large. I've not been out to the farmlands of Austria. But I was like, yeah, This checks out.
Hmm. There is also there's a lot of these like little, like you said, Cecil, very European movie filmmaking sort of thing, because there's just little vignettes, like things don't fully
Yeah.
complete, like the chase through the cornfield, the squishy land. They're all just like little video vignettes, little filmic vignettes. They even go to this like what looks like an abandoned house,
Right.
going into this like dark garage of the abandoned house. Nothing ever really comes of it. It's just creepy. There's just a shot of the back of Elias's head, as his brother walks into the darkness, which leads to our title card.
Jeffrey, when you were growing up, did you grow up in suburbia, urban, or country?
Suburbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like when you were this age, do you remember this sense of like go out and explore and just be back by dinner time? Did
Yeah,
your parents kind of
definitely.
do that sort of thing?
Yeah, there was definitely like still a few like undeveloped areas on the edge of the suburb where you could go like traipsing through woods and along creeks and find turtles. And we found a beaver
Yeah.
once. That was really
Ooh.
exciting. Yeah.
Very, very similar. Like
Yeah.
the land behind my house is very suburban, but the land behind my house was forest, then cow pastures, and then more suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a kid, it was very much forested. So like, you know, I don't know. I kind of related to these two kids, one kid, two kid, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of like, well, nobody else is going to make fun for us. So, you know, let's go poke at some peat moss for a while, or, you know, let's go like explore an abandoned barn. So it didn't really strike me as terribly creepy.
The only thing I would say that was creepy about the scene was just the way it's shot, because it's the
Oh
back
yeah.
of Elias's head. Yeah, the idea of like just exploring an old house that you come across isn't that creepy. It's just shot like a horror scene because
Yeah.
he doesn't turn his head.
Yeah. There's a lot of distance in this movie, like distance from characters, distance from even the sound was like a little muffled,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. One interesting point here is that we go right to title card for Goodnight Mommy, but the right when it pops up, it has the German title, which is Ich sehe, ich sehe, which means I see, which I found really interesting. Like, what a
Yeah.
departure. Two very, very different sounding titles altogether. And this wasn't like Rift was the Icelandic film. I
Was
think
it Dawn?
it was Twilight was
Twilight.
the
That was it.
translation of the Icelandic word for their title, which we couldn't. You obviously didn't want to call it Twilight and release it in
It's
America.
Twilight, not that Twilight.
Everyone would have been disappointed.
Now, I have to say, I did not see this movie in the theaters or, you know, like run to go see it because honestly, I thought the title was a little like Goodnight Mommy. Ugh,
well,
ugh.
you're a theater kid. You remember the '80s Marsha Norman play Night Mother,
I do.
and yeah, it's just it plays off of that. And Night Mother always felt like kind of in theater, always felt like a punchline to me, just because I guess in the early '80s when it came out, it was provocative, but by the time I was reading plays in the '90s, Night Mother didn't feel very relevant. It
No.
felt like a pretty old trope.
Right up there
That they
with
were playing
Crimes of the Heart, you know,
yeah.
or
And so Goodnight Mommy is not a good title. I agree with you on that. It
yeah,
feels weird to say. Mommy is just a weird
right?
word
Yeah.
altogether.
Like it's a little too, like, again, I'm going with this movie is like the anti Annie. You know, like if like the musical Annie is over here, then Goodnight Mommy is like the other end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But weirdly enough, we've given it a title that's kind of cutesy bootsy. Like, and I know they're, you know, kind of playing on like, oh, it's creepy kids, you know, they give you a kiss goodnight, mommy, right
Uh-huh.
after we fucking super glue your mouth shut and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the title didn't grab me. And I like the sort of sing-songy nature of the German.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like I
like
wish they had just like stuck with something real simple like that.
yeah, I see would be such an art house sounding film, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I think I see would have been better. I like it because it's playing with the duplicity in this film. Like
Mhm.
there's so much about twos, about things
Yeah.
that are repeated in this movie. And also like just the notion of I see is the I think I understand.
Mhm.
But this is a movie that is playing on your lack of understanding of what's about to happen. Though I do want to mention that I think the weakest part of this movie, besides the title, is its flip. I don't think it hides its secret very well at all.
Mm.
And I don't know if it's a secret, but I don't know how it was marketed because I don't remember when this movie came out. But it feels like it wants to be marketed as mom mom gets plastic surgery, facial reconstruction surgery, whatever, comes home, she might not actually be mom.
Right.
And then it turns out that actually this is definitely mom, and everybody's bad,
Yeah.
especially these kids. But it does so beautifully play at, and so maybe it doesn't want that, and maybe it doesn't care that that secret is known. It's more a matter of like how the transition happens, what goes on there, because the duality in this movie is really beautiful. Like, it's so gorgeously shot, and it's
Oh yeah.
so creatively shot as well. They find some scares from pretty simple things. When we first meet mommy, the way she's standing in the shade,
God.
just the way it takes a while for her face to come into focus is really, really super unnerving.
Yeah, and I love the fact that mom never gets a name.
Mm,
She is always unnamed.
yep.
Um, and I was kind of thinking about it like towards the end of the film, where the kids are pressing her like, prove to us that you are our mother, and just how like impossible that is.
Uh-huh.
You know, like what an impossible task that is, for yes, Karen, it's like proving a negative, you know
Yeah.
um but like this mother role is so strange and nebulous, and she's a mommy monster for a lot of this movie,
Yeah.
until we get sort of the details of why she's behaving the way she's behaving.
Mm-hmm.
um Added to the fact that she is cut off literally, like we can't see her face, you know so I don't know, she's pretty terrifying, like
Yeah.
as a movie villain goes. For only half the movie, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So we get a couple of things like this house is gorgeous. What an amazing vacation
Oh my
home.
god, right?
That kitchen faucet is so tall. It's the big bendy style. I forget what the big U-shaped faucet, but it goes up and above her head.
Oh
It's
damn.
the detachable faucet slash sprayer. I was just really
Oh
fascinated
yes.
with this.
See, I
Um,
was clocking there's a very famous photographer in their hallway, and it's a woman who's sort of blurred.
mhm.
I'm pretty sure I can't remember the name right now, but like you would recognize this photograph. He did a series of like men in suits, women in suits, kind of,
Mhm.
like I think it was featured in uh, 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 um, oh god, like, Christian Bale, Evil
Oh,
Psychopath, American Psycho.
American Psycho.
I was
Yeah.
like, American Pie. No, that's not it. American something. But I was like, like what a great backstory of, well-to-do, well off, but clearly cloistered away in the countryside, going a
Yeah.
little bit mad,
Yeah.
you know.
The artwork in this house is bonkers. Like that little living room area where they're playing the 20 questions game,
Oh yeah.
which we'll get to in a second. But that creepy shadow artwork on the wall behind them is super disturbing. This 20 questions bit. Another thing I wanted to celebrate about this movie that I think is so good is how minimal the script is. There's
Oh
so
yeah.
little speaking in this movie. It just lets you sort of get what's happening. And the I think maybe the best like written scene in this whole film, like that's of a scene that's really filled with words, is the 20 questions scene right here at the beginning,
Yeah.
when Elias has a little sticker on his head, and they're all, he's having to play, am I an animal, am I a thing, do I use it every day, do blah blah blah. And it turns out Elias es ein Auto. And so
Oh,
Elias makes the one for mom, and he does the little sticker and it says mama on it.
I love it.
It's so good, and it's lovely because, I mean, not lovely, it's disturbing and such, but like lovely script writing here, because they build the tension. The actors build this really beautiful tension in this scene, because Mother doesn't understand
She
what's
just
on
doesn't
her
get it.
forehead. She doesn't get it.
She's angry.
She's not, he's not giving the best clues, but he's like 9, so whatever, like,
Sure.
but you can see her frustration building with her child, so you were getting that. But 2, it's doing the wonderful metaphorical work of the idea of she's not mama, she can't comprehend being his mother.
You can put a
um
label on something, but that
yeah,
does not make it true.
yeah, and we also get the backstory of kind of what she does, that she's some type of actor, or,
Oh, I missed that.
well, because he, when he's giving clues, is she's like, is this a person? He's like, yeah. And she says, is it a person? Um, is this person on television? He said, yes. Is this person famous? And then he has that moment like,
I don't know.
so she starts guessing other TV actors and things like
Because
that.
doesn't she say, like, do I know this person? And that's where I was like, do
Oh,
you?
shit. Do you?
Do you?
Yeah. It's great. It does so much. Daniel says Ishse is the starting line when playing I Spy, like I spy with my little
See,
eye.
that's a great
I see
title.
what you don't see. Thanks, College German. Oh, thank you, Daniel. That's wonderful.
That's awesome. Because then it's like a kid's game. It does have that sort of sing-songy, rhymey thing without being like, good night, mommy.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's why they went Goodnight Mommy, because there's something sings. I don't know. I just think Lullaby and Goodnight would have been good too. It would have been it would have been not good. It would have been neutral. Okay, great. So we then cut to we also see here where she's not acknowledging Lucas.
Right.
During this game, and later when they're out playing, they come in, she pours pink lemonade or whatever, and Lucas doesn't get any. He was like, you didn't pour any for Lucas. And she's like, well, maybe he should ask for some. That's a weird line.
Yeah. It's so hard. Have you ever written a script where there's like a character that's not really there, or like tried to hide a major plot thing? Because I can't even wrap my brain around how you would do that without making it like super clunky,
It's really hard to do in an aha way. You can do it for a short amount of time. I know I've done this in Night Vale before. Like when we wrote the Silas part 1 and part 2 for Welcome to Night Vale, like we did those last year. But there's like at the end of, for part 1, there's a reveal of what Silas is and who he is at the end of that episode. That's like, oh, okay, great, but it's not the type of like aha that like The Sixth Sense is.
Yeah.
Which is
or
what
Fight Club.
or Fight Club. It's what this movie is going for. That would the Silas episodes are not as complicated as The Sixth Sense or Fight Club. Like those are 2 hours worth of having to suspend the audience's disbelief, not just to suspend it, but make them not look at your sleight of hand.
Yeah, it's the magic trick.
It's
like, pay attention. Meanwhile, the plot is happening like right down here.
Because the slightest thing you suggest can tip somebody over, but you do have to be suggesting things. You have to be moving your hand to hide the other thing, but you don't want people to look at your hand. And if they do, you want them to look at the wrong thing. It's very hard, is what I'm saying, as a writer, to do that, which is why I think this movie doesn't quite pull it off. Because from the get-go, I'm like, something screwy with that kid. If this movie had come out in 1997,
oh yeah,
I bet we fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. We're like, our minds are blown. This is the greatest
Sixth
foreign
Sense
film ever made.
Yeah. So the next question is, does this movie care if we, does this movie want to be taken as a murder mystery, in which we're trying to figure out what this kid is, or there's a big reveal, or is it kind of what you were saying before, like a series of short video images that are kind of like a little more pastiche? No, collage. Like it's a little more like, mom, kids, they're all fucking nuts. They're going through some rough shit. Figure it out yourself.
Yeah. I think it definitely wants us. I think it's definitely being an art house movie, because it's working with themes, and it's doing it with like this like kind of elegant sort of ethereal way that art house movies sort of kind of do. But it's definitely dealing with the themes of like how we face things,
Yeah.
how we look at something and know what it is, how we acknowledge the way something is. I mean, the very notion that she is getting plastic surgery because she's a barely famous actor,
Right.
it's playing on the idea of like, what is your identity? Do you really look at yourself, or do you only see into the surface? And I think it was Melissa way earlier in the chat had brought up this idea of like this funny joke about let's leave the kids, one who is dead, all alone while I get surgery. What could go
Right.
wrong? Like, I just
Yeah.
apparently have been separated from their father, and some accident caused the twin brother to die.
Right.
Hey, yeah, you know what? Go play outside and
Yeah.
just fuck off, be out of my
For like
way.
8 hours a day.
And why don't I get why don't I get plastic surgery without leaving the kids with their father? Like, there's so many bad decisions that involve a person not really looking at their life. They're not really studying what their kid is doing. And that sort of is made present by these giant water bugs. I don't even know what kind of insect these things are. I thought roaches at
Oh, I
first,
think
but they're
somebody said they're like hissing.
hissing
Uh,
beetles or something, or
oh God, I saw it up there. So I totally agree with everything you're saying. I would even say it's also, this movie is so much about masks.
oh,
It's people that know
hissing
exactly what they're
cockroach.
doing. They're like, but are who they are internally and who they are externally are
Hmm.
very different. Yeah, as soon as the
Interesting.
mask came out with the two twins at the end, I was like, bingo, we have a
Yeah.
theme.
Yep. Yeah,
Madagascar hissing cockroach. There we
yeah,
go.
there it is. Yeah, those things are again, yellow light here. I understand kids love bugs. They think they're very
Yeah.
cool, but the idea that these things are just crawling all over the house, getting out there, I don't think they're actually real,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I'm right.
Or
Are
are
they?
they? I don't I
Maybe
lose
they
track of what's
begin
real and
real,
what's
but
not. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I was a pretty outdoorsy kid, so I'm like, yeah, have some bugs, but
Yeah,
make sure the bugs stay in the jar. You
that's
know,
right. Yeah, that's right. Um Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't the thing that makes me think that they are real is because later when she sees that aquarium with the dead cat in it,
oh my god,
she starts pouring the cockroaches back into the aquarium, which
yeah.
makes me think that the cat wasn't real because she doesn't
Oh,
acknowledge the dead cat in the aquarium.
oh, I thought she totally did. She was like, because she killed the cat, right? Or the cat was dying. Cat was
I
dying
think
or
the
dead.
cat was just dying. I think the cat was just dead.
But
I think the
but
cat
like
was
she
just
moved
sick.
it, or I think she might have killed it or
Maybe.
something. But
Yeah.
I thought it was like an act of revenge of like,
Okay.
oh, you wanted to preserve your cat? Fine. Here's these bugs that you've been putting in my mouth and into my stomach for the last 3 days.
Okay. Yeah, Boo says they're very chill. People like them as pets, those bugs. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I had a snake in college. Why wouldn't we have? I had a lizard
Did
as
you?
well. Yeah. My
I,
roommate had a snake in
okay. I was
college.
like, I
So
never pictured you as a snake guy.
I really liked the snake. It was a red-tailed boa, and she was very sweet. Her name
Ooh,
was Sophie, and she was just nice. Sometimes I would take her out and put her around my shoulders, and she would just chill, and I would do my reading and writing for class. And
nice.
yeah, she was great. Yeah, this movie is definitely playing on identity. What's inside of you, what's outside of you, like what do people see you as, what do you see yourself as, what is your identity at all,
Right.
and are you really looking at your own life, or are you
Yeah.
just dealing with the surface of it? This house is everything is surface
Gorgeous.
pretty, but if you look closely at those pictures on the wall, they are gorgeous pieces of art, but it's unclear what's happening in them. The faces
Mm.
are blurred, the images are blurred, they're shadowed, everything is not quite right. That sink stuck out to me because it was absurdly tall. It was about the look of the sink, not the practicality of the sink.
Oh,
The
yeah.
sink stands out in the way that the architecture of this home stands out. Um, so mom has a new thing about she's wants absolute silence in this house. So she has new rules with the kids. She takes the phone away from Elias and Lucas. She wants the blinds closed during the day, and she wants just dead silence. If you need anything, I'm in my room. You just knock. That's it. That's all. I'm gonna be fucking pissed. It is scary, like the way she talks to these kids.
This is some Joan Crawford shit right here.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen Mommy Dearest?
I've seen parts of it. I don't think I've seen it all together.
I'm adding it to the list. I'm adding it to the dice right now
Good,
because
good.
it is a horror movie. Like,
Yeah.
don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Maybe that's what they were playing on with the title, sort of "Mommy Dearest, Goodnight Mommy."
Sure, yeah.
But it's very much this,
Yeah.
the like mommy monster that I think everybody can kind of relate to. The scary mommy, the like mommy that's been working. Mommy needs her beauty rest kind of mommy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny in retrospect after this movie, watching this movie, it doesn't excuse her behavior, but it sort of when you think about her not as a fake mom, when you just say like what makes a person behave this way.
Yeah.
I mean, she's made so many terrible choices and she's not fighting through her pain very well, but I would imagine this type of surgery is extraordinarily painful. And
Right.
afterwards, and I imagine you're on a lot of pain meds, and I imagine you're
Yep.
probably just not completely there all the time.
You're just sort of floating.
I would imagine bright lights really fuck with you. That could be something to do with your pain medication. I think also just loud noises. I bet you have a headache all the time. So I get why she's on edge a little bit.
And
But
these are like particularly rambunctious children.
yeah.
Children, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're very, I mean, they're boys, but they're also like capital B boys.
Yeah.
Like let's punch each other until one of us falls over. Let's, like
let's belch a lot.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I had a brother growing up and, we kind of went separate. Like when we were this age, I think like my dad was building like an extra addition to our house. And like at one time, my father had to take a hammer away from me because I was going to hit my brother with a hammer. Like,
damn,
boys. Yeah.
Yeah. They, there, Boo in the comment says, it's weird how the mom didn't hire someone to help her as she recovered. Yeah. There's just so many bad decisions in this movie. Like they clearly could afford to hire help, to hire support.
Send him to summer camp, yo.
Have a summer camp, something like that. But also just this is a person making decisions on her own life, not the life of her child. It's a weak plot point because I think even the most calloused parent, the person who is the least capable of being a good parent, at least is aware that if a child goes through a trauma, that child probably needs someone to help them process the trauma. I think a lot of parents make the mistake of trying to work through the trauma with the child themselves and being very bad at it, or not being able to obviously afford child therapy. Right? That's another big thing. But it's almost as if like the writers are so concerned with hiding this information from us because we can't know about an accident until much later in the movie. So by hiding the information, it also means that the mother never knows it either. It seems that the mother is never aware of it until later, which is, I don't think a realistic choice, because I think even someone who could not afford help or afford a therapist for her child would absolutely be acknowledging something with the kids. Like you would see on her face when the kid is misbehaving, that exasperation of like, I know what you're going through, but you're being awful about it right now.
Yeah.
That was all. It's just, it doesn't seem to like play on mom's face that there's ever any awareness of what's going to happen in the script later.
German. European. No, I love this actress. I gotta say, I think she did an amazing job of being a kind of glacier cold, but still having a lot of depth underneath. I kept thinking, like, once I kind of got more of the information, I was like, what happened to the husband? Like, what has this woman gone through? That she is so kind of focused on her own journey and like, just like, I can't with this kid.
Yeah, she is. They're definitely are playing at her being a completely self-obsessed human being. Like she's a narcissist, I guess, at minimum, or let's say at maximum. That's a very heavy charge, narcissist. A couple of other interesting things, like these kids have they have an audio tape of mom singing them a lullaby. And so we get an audio glimpse of her, an oral glimpse of her as a sweet voiced, touching, loving mother.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen that out of her yet. We get a couple of interesting little notes here of like we get our first kind of like real scare in this movie, which is late at night, Elias gets up and he sneaks out of his room and he goes and he sees his mother in the bathroom with the bandages off, and we can't see her face, but she's putting some cream, some lotion on her face, and she's right next to that concave mirror. Oh, and he is
God.
Jesus Christ. And we just get the quick shot of the eyeball suddenly seeing him, the bloodshot eyeball.
Oh, God, it's so creepy.
And then he runs back
so
into his
distorted.
room. Oof.
Like I also love the dream sequence in which I think that's around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, beautiful woman in a beautiful dress, I think like out in a field or, like foresty area. And we think we're finally going to get to see her face. And then they do that thing where it's just this, really fast.
Yeah. That feels like a very we learned that technology probably around 2010. So we're still playing with that technology now of like the rapid face twisting.
Oh my God. Jacob's ladder.
I guess I guess we've had that for a lot longer then. Yeah.
I think they literally just like slow the film down and have actors go.
Yeah.
And that's it. Literally fix it in pre.
There's also a delivery man that shows up and he just fills a freezer full of frozen pizzas. And it's unclear if mommy did this or if Elias did this. There was the question was, Marin brought up in the chat, like, how much of this movie is supposed to be just Elias's perspective?
Yeah.
And I had that question because later these frozen pizzas come back up because he's eating a frozen pizza. And has he manipulated everything? Like, is this information hidden from us because it's kind of from his point of view throughout? We don't get a lot of scenes of just mom doing things.
Yeah.
Except of whatever's in. Could sort of actually suppose maybe that he's exaggerating her actions throughout, that he might not act. In fact, maybe she never was as mean as she seems in this movie.
Like he remembers her as always wearing bandages. It becomes like a little bit more of a memory play, like a Tennessee Williams thing.
Yeah.
But we are presented as something, maybe that's the disconnect. It's not a mystery to solve of like what happened to the other brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that we are being presented something that we think is realistic, but in fact it's like hyper realistic. I don't know. What would you call that? What would you call like impressionistic? Maybe
impressionistic. It leans toward absurd at times. Not quite surreal, but absurd.
Yeah.
Right. That there's something so exaggerated to the point where it's letting you know this looks realistic, but if you spend 2 seconds thinking about it, it's not.
Yeah. These are symbols. These are not actual things.
The giant, the hissing cockroaches is one of those things. Like, I know people keep them as pets, but that's a level of absurdity to add to a thing that no one ever explains it to you, so it feels absurd. Well, we get to a scene here where the boys go out to play and they go out into not just a graveyard, but a fucking passage tomb that is filled with human skulls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was the moment where I'm like, we're in dreamland. Like this something isn't right here. This isn't really happening, right? This cat isn't real.
Or is it? Or is it just like so absurd? That like if you start thinking about it as a symbol rather than as a thing, because absurd shit happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's all pretty real. It seemed pretty real to me until we get into some of the like weirder nighttime dream imagery stuff. But I don't know, like, yeah, like kids get into weird shit.
Yeah, I just the skulls in the tomb were weird to me. The idea that there would be a passage tomb out in this Austrian countryside made total sense. Because there's a if you're ever in Dublin, Newgrange is one of the most baller places you can go, and it's a 6,000-year-old passage tomb there. But one thing that's really fun is that before archaeologists discovered it, local countryside teenagers had discovered it and had been going inside this passage tomb and like carving their initials into it, like 19th century teens were going inside this old tomb, making out and carving their initials on the wall.
I love
And I
it.
think that's very funny. But but that type of the passage tomb isn't a place for human remains. It was a place for you would take the remains sometimes in there, but you wouldn't bury them. You would usually take ashes in there and let the sun collect the souls or what have you. This is a case where like this is just a pile of bones, and I wasn't certain what type of burial place this was meant to depict, because that's at best a potter's field.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know that potter's field. I don't know that term.
Potter's field is where we deposit unnamed people. So like a potter's field is oftentimes near prisons. There might be potter's fields. It came up in wartime. There might be potter's fields where you deposit lots of bodies of the dead. In Austria, that might make some sense. There might have been some. There was a couple of giant wars that happened in the previous century. And one big old Holocaust that would have happened in that century, in that part of the world as well. So I don't know what it's suggesting. It's a really disturbing image because it certainly brings up, to me, I was like, what is this grave that it's not explaining to us? I like that when art does it. I'm not mad that the movie did it. It just was disturbing and it doesn't land anywhere. And maybe that's the point.
Yeah. It's funny. It made me think of the weird like kind of buried culture that is often found in the countryside of places that like you were saying, you might think a place, but then it turns out there's a fucking unknown graveyard. A friend of mine is from Russia, and she was telling me about I want to say it's Ivan the Terrible, the Tsar, apparently buried a ton of treasure underneath this one town where she grew up. And it was kind of the local legend of nobody for years and years and years, nobody could find this passageway.
Okay.
But it just kind of reminded me of like the kind of thing that like a 10-year-old kid would like go out to try and find on an adventure.
Right.
Yeah. Like, okay, go to creepy old graveyard. Excavate, bring back relics. Like that's kind of what kids do sometimes.
That's totally it. I would have been beside myself if my friend took me out. Like it's very Stand By Me. Like hey, you want to go see a dead body?
Yep.
And if you found a tomb filled with these skulls, they don't react. They're actually more interested in this cat being there.
Yeah. Death. The introduction of death.
There's a whole like sequence here where they hide the cat under the bed, but mommy comes in. She knows they've brought something in, but is not up on the cat yet. But she's just freaking out about the fact that they had their door locked, which is where she ends up taking the key out of the door and using it to lock them in their room repeatedly. Very extreme reaction, Melissa. She goes psychopathic right here. She is like searching through his drawers and his bed. She finds a lighter. Why do you have a lighter? And it's like, I don't know, I just found it. Thought it was cool. This is a person not understanding 9-year-olds at all. I'm like, trust me, you will know if your child is smoking, my friend. The one thing about smoke is that it will smell like a smoke. So I bet you're fine. But Marin also Rue brings up Chekhov's.
I was getting ready to say Chekhov's lighter. They're like, child must have a lighter for later in the movie.
Yep. Chekhov's lighter.
Yeah, and also Karen, there's some warning flags of we're kind of verging into Jeffrey Dahmer territory here.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, I found this dead cat. I think I will keep it in my sock drawer
Mm-hmm.
and put it together again
Mm-hmm.
in formaldehyde after it died. Like,
Yeah.
you start collecting enough of these and you go,
Yeah.
maybe special education is necessary.
Yeah. I I'm actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think the cat was ever alive. I think they
Yeah,
found a cat and I think it was dead from the get-go.
I think you're right.
I think that's what it is. I think the cat was dead from the get-go. And I think Elias is the one who is off. And I think Mother is also off, but in a completely different way, in a way of a person who's not coping with her child. She's not. We need to talk about Kevin, but we're not talking about
Right?
Kevin. And
Like, I mean, Marin just brought up the accident wasn't your fault.
mhm.
Was it?
Yep.
So maybe this woman is trapped in a house with a child who may or may not have killed his brother on
Yeah.
purpose. Like, like I did not really like piecing this together. I didn't really come up with that sort of like, is this a psycho story?
Yeah.
Is this a we need to talk about Kevin story?
Yeah. He has just so many of these like really actually surreal scenes, especially like he sees mom like go off into the woods, and it begged the question to me. I'm like, did he see this or is he dreaming it? Like, it's playing
Right.
with, is this real life or is this just a
Yeah.
dream? Mom, this is where she goes off into the woods, strips down all of her clothes and takes off her bandages and like does the crazy rapid head thing in the
Mhm.
middle of the dark woods. um Also, when he gets up in the middle of the night and goes and places one of those giant cockroaches on his mom, and it crawls right into her fucking mouth.
Right into her mouth. I'm like, nope.
Nope.
I mean,
And she doesn't move at all.
listen, I've been on a lot of painkillers before. You would at least like roll over, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You may not wake up, but you would at least roll over.
Yeah. There's a a crunch. Uh there's a what is I going to say? Oh yeah, they also do they find a photo album. The boys find a photo album and they see a picture of their mom and another woman, both dressed similarly, kind of look alike. And they're like, who is this woman? Who is this? Is
Which
this
one? Which one are
you?
you? Oh, yeah, which one are
Yeah.
you?
There's also a confusing, like I said earlier, they don't explain very much in this movie, which is maddening, but also pretty wonderful. They start looking this name up on Google, and it's unclear. I didn't write the name down, but it's unclear if that's the name of the lady or if that's their mother's name or if that's
Oh,
a town name. I don't know. They start looking up a name on Google and they end up finding their home, their vacation home on like Austrian Zillow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They find a listing for this very house that they're in, which goes back to the who was it that just asked, sign my shovel. What if they're all dead already? Like,
Right.
there's a notion to this film that maybe none of this is happening, maybe nothing is real.
Yeah.
um there's this plan to put a baby monitor under her bed.
Sure.
There's a pretty great almost got caught sequence. She's dropping stuff. Mom comes in and one boy has to run to the
Yeah, yeah.
balcony and the other boy is pulled tight and up under the bed, and she drops some pills and her keys and is feeling around under the bed to make sure she got all of it. Pretty great scare. Um, there's also the other thing about the bugs is they seem to be multiplying.
Yeah.
And I don't think Madagascar hissing cockroaches are native to Austria. By their
Probably not.
name, I'm gonna guess they're native to Madagascar.
Yeah.
They feel maybe southern Africa, but they keep finding these bugs in the house and then having to place them in the aquarium. And we could say, well, maybe they keep getting out because there's no lid. But I think the implication in this movie is that they're just around.
Yeah.
They're just a critter that you could find and keep as a pet.
See, I think it's a symbol. It's like it's not like I just stopped thinking about a lot of the shit in this movie as plot. at a
Mm-hmm.
certain point. I'm like, oh, well, clearly this is the child's rage against their mother. You know, like I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We're in full Freud territory here.
Yeah. There's that moment where this is the cat moment where they put the cat in the aquarium, and I don't, whatever. I feel like we've gone as far with the cat as we can, but
Yeah.
Elias and his mom get into this argument. He says, "You're not our mom," and she smacks him. There we go. He says, "You're not our mom," and she slaps him, and then she drags his ass up the stairs into his room, slams the door to where Lucas can't get in. Lucas isn't real, but she forces you hear him, her tell him, "Tell me you're my mom." Say that 10 times, and apparently she's been videotaping these because one comes up later that he plays back for her. She's been videotaping on the phone, or he has. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so hard to pull together what happened or didn't. Um, so she's locking them in their room, and eventually she finally comes to the door, and she's got her bandages off. She's mom again,
Right.
and she's saying, "Are we friends again? Is it okay?" This is some real abuser bullshit type behavior. Um,
Look, I'm beautiful.
Look, I'm
I'm
beautiful
all
now.
beautiful.
I
She
feel
has like
good.
all the eye makeup on.
Yeah. By the way, Donnie Payne points out cockroaches are from places with rot and decay. So yeah, that's obvious. That makes sense why they're always used as they're gross, and they're used in horror movies too, so much. But yeah, this idea that I look good now, so now I feel good. So since I feel good about me, I can feel good about you.
Yep. And in a very like sexy way, like smoky eye,
Yeah.
like she's I mean, we don't know what the situation with her with the non-existent father is yeah, it's really interesting. Like she's not I don't know if I would go as far as to say narcissistic, but
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever trauma she has experienced before this movie started has pushed her into a very like like self-centered place,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I felt for her. Like she's grasping at straws. She's like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just want to be pretty again.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I definitely felt for her as a human. It was hard to forgive her for her parenting.
Sure. Oh,
But
sure.
yeah, I completely understood where she was as a person, but she's
Yeah.
definitely
Get a nanny.
she's a
Hi.
very bad mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Um
give the kids like some supervised, what is it, a creative play,
yeah. I really love this. This is maybe my favorite scene in the movie, which is she gives the boys a boomerang as a gift. And Elias is like, "Can we go outside and try it out?" And she's like, "Sure." And she
Yeah.
cracks the door open, and they fucking sprint. Boom,
Yeah.
gone. They run into town. They have a real Stand By Me sort of thing, because you see them walking along the train track,
Oh my God.
all the
Yes.
way into town, following the trains into town. They get to the church. They find the priest,
Yep.
who totally just drives their asses right back to their house.
What do they
Um,
ask? What did they ask the priest for? He's not even the priest. It's like the sexton or whatever.
yeah.
But they ask him for something. Is it like our mom is not our mom? Can you do like an exorcism? Or I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I don't remember. Uh, I don't remember what it was. Yeah, they run into um they run into Rue says they had the field on fire. They run into the guy burning hay in the
Right.
middle of the
Yeah.
field, and
Yeah.
he's got a pitchfork, and he's a man with a pitchfork kind of shouting at them behind flames is very devil symbology.
Sure.
But these boys go right to the church. As this movie goes along, the other reveal about these boys is how religious they are, how
Yeah.
Christian religious they are. There's a lot more as this movie goes along, a lot more praying to
They
the
like to
cross.
pray. They like to
Yeah,
kneel.
they like to think of things in terms of like good and
Mhm.
evil,
Yeah.
demon possession, whatever.
Which, I mean, if there had been, let's say the start of the movie is 0, at -5, there had been a funeral,
Yeah,
that's something that God was Harold and Maude. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of like the sort of the things that we latch onto when we're going through grief.
Yeah.
That maybe 5 years before we'd be like, yeah, I'm not churchy, not a
Yeah.
church person, but then something happens in your life and change. You know,
Yeah. Like the commentary happening about, isn't a
about
boomerang a
the boomerang.
weapon? And like Ryan says, if you're fighting wombats, it is. It's a weird toy to give. But the boomerang is, again, it's a symmetrical object. It's an object about return.
Mm.
It's still playing with the duality and mirrors, right? It is an object that you throw and it comes back. It is not a
Yep.
one way, it is a two-way toy.
It is balanced, and what goes around comes around.
Yeah. Yeah, what goes around does come around. Yeah, they get sent right back to their house by the priest, and you see it as they're talking to the priest. They're like, when we get to the police station, can you talk to the, whatever, we want to ask about this and our dad and whatever else. But he takes them back to mom, which, again, like, boy, God cannot save you. God will abandon you, because listen, these boys are the psychotic ones, or this boy is the psychotic one. But the thing is, if a child comes to you as a priest and says, I have to get away from my mother because she's been locking in my room or whatever, I don't think she's my real mom, you do not take that child back to her mother or to their mother.
Yeah, do some legwork.
You have to get some yeah, you got to do some research into it. Like, you can't just
Kids say some crazy shit though, Jeffrey.
They do. I agree.
Because there's a difference between like my mom is hurting me. My mom is locking me, and my mother is not my mother.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I just feel like, do a quick Google search for like, are there helplines for like a kid has come up and said this to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Send some reinforcements. 2 days, like take them back to their mom, and then 2 days later, send over a social worker.
That's
just
right.
Check up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There should be a welfare check, I think.
Or just go yourself. Check it out.
So this is it's very funny. This is a movie, by the way, wherein I'm realizing it as we're talking to, because we're an hour in into our thing. But this is one of those movies, when I went later after I watched the movie, I went and copied and pasted the Wikipedia summary into my notes just so I could make sure to go through it. So that the Wikipedia summary, if you go to it, is 7 paragraphs long.
Whoa.
And the first 2 are really long paragraphs, and are the longest 2 paragraphs. The first 2 paragraphs of the Wikipedia summary for Goodnight Mommy cover the first 65 minutes of this film. The last 5 paragraphs only cover 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Because so much shit happens in these last half of this movie. The second, it's not split evenly down the middle, is what I'm saying. But it's funny that there's just like, it's just not a bunch happening, setting up the mood for the sprint to the end.
Yeah, the first part is much more mood. The second part is much more action.
Yeah.
And boy, do we get into it.
So, yeah, mom's crying after the priest brings him back. She explains, this is where she mentions there was an accident, also because of the separation from my surgery. Just the whole situation has just been so hard. And, this movie definitely wants you to believe, like, bullshit, lady, you've been fucking these kids up.
Yeah.
Well, she wakes up, she's crying, she takes her pills and her water, she goes to sleep. She wakes up to her 2 boys in their creepy fucking masks, and she is tied to the bed.
Yep.
Tell us where our mom is. I'm your mom. 9.
Prove it. Yeah, I know, right.
Yeah. My college German was coming back a little bit in here.
I'm Mutter. That means nothing.
Deine Mutter. Ich bin deine Mutter is deine. Yeah, I'm conjugating my
I am mother
my articles wrong, but ich bin Mutter. So yeah, and the boys are like 9. So they show her the photo, like, who is she? And she's crying. Her mom's crying, being like, there's just a friend. We kind of dress the same. And here you realize, like, when you hear that explanation, That's a very reasonable explanation to
Yeah.
have a good friend. And sometimes you dressed similarly. And
Yeah,
sometimes you look like your friend.
she's like, I put in contacts. I have
Yeah.
contact lenses,
Yeah.
guys.
They're like, why do you have blue eyes here? I'm like, I wear contacts.
Yeah.
They're in the bathroom. You can find them.
I have a life that you don't know about, child.
Yeah, he pulls up that's the other thing. I have a life that you don't know about, child, is a really great way of phrasing that, because he pulls up a video of a dating profile. She's
Oh
made a
shit, I missed
dating
this actually.
profile on her computer, and it's clear that he's been through her computer, and he sees that where she's like, oh, I like movies, I like to go for hikes, blah blah blah. And in that thing, she's got different color eyes. He's like, why? And I don't know. Like, I'm an adult. I don't know. I'm trying to date people.
I'm trying to have a life, kid.
Elias gets into a fight with Lucas in the bathroom, which is crazy in retrospect because we know that Lucas isn't actually there.
This is my thing when we have the split personality and there's, self fighting self. I always wonder what this looks like to the neutral observer.
Yeah.
Is it just like a person staring very intently into a mirror? Is it like someone like body slamming themselves? Like I always wonder about the practicalities of this. Is a tried and true literary film trope of two people, one body. But I always wonder, what does this actually look like?
I don't know.
I mean,
right? Like,
there's no answer.
No, like if you actually like didn't give Lucas a body for this movie, right? Like if you actually treated it like it wasn't from. This goes back to the idea that this movie is told from Elias's point of view, because we also see Lucas. It's not, if it was from Mom's point of view.
Yep, he wouldn't be there.
I'm actually really curious what this movie would have been like if they had made the choice to have the second act from her point of view.
Oh,
like the same script, the same storyline, but she wakes up and there's just one boy, and you start seeing him talking to somebody who's not there. And
it had been like hyper realistic, like less dreamy and more just like normal lighting. That would be interesting.
And the Rue has the question here of like, is Lucas a delusion or a ghost?
My vote is delusion.
Yeah, my vote would be delusion, but I do think that is a really, really good question. No, we're not gonna have a sequel called Good Morning Mommy. So we get our first moment of real violence here because he throws water on his mom's face. So this isn't an actual act, but an actual like harmful act, but it is.
But it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. It's a statement of power. It's an I mean business sort of thing. This is where he shows her a video on a phone of her forcing him to say, I will not listen to my brother 10 times.
Right.
And she starts crying and apologizing. I know this college German coming back. She says, es tut mir leid. Es tut mir leid. I'm sorry. It does me pain. It does me pain. And it's an acknowledgement that she made him do this, assuming that she is a real person in this and that he's not exaggerating from his point of view, that she has been doing some awful shit to him. And she's been exacerbating his crazy, if this is true.
Yeah.
And she's trying to talk her way out of this shit. Cut me loose and I'll cook you breakfast. He does cut her feet loose, but there's a moment too where he asks her about where her beauty mark is.
Right.
And it seems that there was some questions about this in the chat earlier, but it seems like it was unrelated to the plastic surgery. She's getting plastic surgery, but while she's there, they're like, hey, this could be cancerous. We're just going to cut this off.
Take this mole off.
Yeah. And so she's been drawing it back on because it's part of her identity as a television personality.
Yeah.
So they're rubbing it off of her face, being like, this isn't real. You're not really our mom.
You are not German, Cindy Crawford. I refuse. I like this scene because she gets the real child kind of away from the fake child. So I was reading it as like, like kind of the divide and conquer method of parenting. Like, while he's out of the room, if you just untie mommy's feet.
Yeah.
but before that bad one comes back, you know, I don't know. It's very European. This like theater of menace, you know, like
Yeah.
it's like plots within plots within plots. Like there's no wasted space. The dialogue is very particular and precise, you know, and especially dealing with like family dynamics. Like it reminds me a lot of like Pinter in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It is a little bit of the dumbwaiter, a little bit of the birthday party.
You
Yeah.
know,
That
like
sort of
we
thing.
have no clue what happened before this movie started.
No.
We're like just being thrown in, and we think, oh yeah, you know, mom's got wearing bandages, kids are kind of rambunctious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, maybe not. Maybe there's real danger hiding underneath
Yeah.
this beautiful this beautiful Bauhaus architecture Austrian summer home.
And Penter's a great one to bring up because Penter, his theater of menace was entirely about who is in charge, like who has the power.
Yep. Yeah.
And people show their power in Penter plays in really amazing ways. Because sometimes it's just with a line, sometimes the actor adds their own flair to it. And so yeah, the throwing water on mom's face is a really big moment because it's bold. It's a physical act because in Pinter plays, the violence often doesn't even come. It's always suggested.
Yeah.
The violence does come sometimes.
Don't make me get out of this chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do it.
That's totally it. And then when if I
do, I'll fuck you up.
Yep. And so before we actually get to the point where we shoot you in the head, we're gonna splash water on your face. Or we're just gonna like cut your shirt a little bit. Like we're gonna, you know, do one little minor act to lead to the bigger thing, and that's what these boys are doing. We cut to a shot of them straight up like burning holes in her face with a magnifying glass.
With the fucking also, like at this point, she is like taped down.
Yeah.
To like, it's not just mommy's laying in bed. Like it's become a production.
Yeah.
Like, you know, much like the mummification in the first part of the film, now we have the sarcophagus of the second part of the film.
Yeah.
Like they're fucking entombing her, you know. But yeah, the I don't know, the using the magnifying glass, obviously, you know, you kind of think of like kids using a magnifying glass to burn ants. Like it shows how little they think of this stranger. She's a bug.
She's a bug.
You know?
Yep. Yeah. They're still, you know, tell us where our mom is, you know. Yeah. Sign My Shovel brings up the ants on the wallpaper. You like the bug metaphors throughout, you know.
Yeah.
I think I will actually let me a slight tangent off of that is just that, you know, I don't think we've had this conversation on the show before, but this idea of like, why are bugs so scary? And I think one of the, you know, why are they so creepy or disturbing to people? And I think one of the things is their eyes. Yeah. Because you can't discern, there's no facial expression on a bug between their big bulbous, usually just like single black bulb.
They don't move.
There's no iris, or like
just mandible.
Like with a fly, you know, with the kaleidoscopic eyes sort of thing. There is this and with the exoskeleton, they make no facial expression. Whereas in like with a mammal, you can even with a bird to some extent, you can sort of make out a little bit. Birds are starting to get a little bit weird, and fish and birds, but mammals, you can see a personality. You can assume a personality on a cow. It's a very dull personality, devoid of almost all thought or feeling, it seems, but you do see the likeness of a face. You see them turn their eyes to look at things. You see a little bit of fear or a little bit of excitement, even on a cat's face when you approach. And with bugs, you don't. And so the idea of treating the mother like a bug is treating her like a thing that you can't fully understand, a thing that it has an indiscernible face from
something to be dissected or studied or
like
classified. I would say the exception are like bumblebees and moths, because they have parts that kind of move, sort of in like we can put what do we call it when you put human emotions on inanimate objects? What's the word for that? You know what I'm talking about?
Anthropomorphize.
Yeah, anthropomorphic. You know, like it, bees do a dance. They do something that is unique.
Yeah.
But a fly, just kind of mosquito. Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Cold.
So very true. Yeah. So we get a shot of them doing some makeshift Christian altar in the graveyard or field or whatever, praying. They tape mom's mouth shut, and then this is a ridiculous scene. I get what they're getting at. I think they're trying to put a little bit of levity into the horror movie genre, but the Red Cross people come by.
Oh my God, right?
And they're insistent.
Is it levity? It's not. It's dramatic irony.
It is dramatic irony. It felt like levity because it's not levity. It felt like comedy.
Yeah. Because they're a little bit bumbly.
Yeah.
They're a little bit like, well, gosh, we've never gotten a donation this big from a kid before.
Right.
But look at the purse. It's really fancy. So I don't know.
Yeah. Melissa says, who just goes into a house? And Rue wants to know, is it a European thing to just walk into people's homes?
It's a country thing.
I couldn't tell what that was. Yeah, a country thing. Because they knock and they're like, somebody should be home. So they start looking around. It just felt a little bit like we just need this to happen for the story, for the
we need someone. Yeah, we need someone in this movie other than these three characters.
Yeah.
Kind of like Misery. We're like, fuck, we need some, or Doc Halloran in The Shining.
Yeah.
Like we need some sort of external lifeline.
Yeah. The Red Cross thing I wasn't buying because I'm not a big supporter of the Red Cross. I like theoretically what they're going for as an organization. I don't think they're very well run and kind of bad. So I was like, well, y'all can fuck right off. But
is the Red Cross bad? I don't know. They were handing out free Band-Aids, Jeffrey.
I know.
They can't be bad.
I'm not going to tell you they're bad. I'm just going to say they're maybe not always putting the money that they say that they're putting to the things that they say.
Maybe
Doctors Without Borders, y'all. Do some Doctors Without Borders. So it's just their like insistence in the way that they're sitting around, because this job, which I've done canvassing before, not for donations, but I've done canvassing. And if you've done canvassing before, where you go door to door, you're not going to stop at any place that you're not going to get a return on. You know what I mean? So if you stop at a place and you've just got kids, you're not going to wait. You're going to come back to that house. You're like, mom's not here right now. We'll come back later at a better time, because you've got other houses to hit.
It's true.
You see what I mean? You're not going to just sit there. You're going to say, great, we know that we can come back to this. If you get to a house to say, I want to talk to you about this candidate and here's the voting, blah, blah, blah. If you get there and it's just a kid and they're like, my parents aren't home, you're like, well, we'll come back later. Here's some info. Just give this to your mom and dad.
Or
go on. Yeah.
You say, go get mommy's purse. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But maybe this might be a cultural thing, like the sort of the American, like go get itness versus European, like, yeah, come on in, have a cup of coffee, take a load off, have a chat, on you go.
Also, I can't believe I'm talking about weird minor plot holes in this film about how.
But there's this movie is so minimal.
Yeah.
You kind of have to.
Yeah. He ends up stealing €50 from mom's purse and brings it to them, and they have this, they talk themselves into taking the money and leaving because the house is so nice that they must be rich. It's fine.
Here's
this
your
kid
Band-Aid.
has plenty. Here's your free Band-Aid. And she manages to, like, mom upstairs manages to tongue off the tape over her mouth and scream, but it's too late. They're already gone.
Yeah.
And they come in and they super glue her mouth shut. They gorilla glue that shit.
Yeah. Which is not bad. For me, what's bad is when they cut it off and kind of miss a little bit. So, like you said, like we've, like 2/3 of this movie is violence free. Death is present. Like it's mom is evil mommy, but man, the last like 30 minutes of this movie is like, it's funny games. Like it's a very European look at film violence.
Yeah.
And just how much you can get away with when you withhold violence for a long time, and
Yeah,
then just a little splatter of blood goes a long way.
it does. There's no blood in this movie except for that.
Yeah.
That's the only blood in this.
But you know exactly what happened. And it's
Man,
not red, it's like orange. Like it's like brownish, or like it's the color of real blood, you know?
yeah. It's such a small, like, you know what? I've cut myself on a mandolin before, my fingers. It's painful. It's awful.
On a
It's
mandolin? Oh, on your fingers. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, cut
why
my
are you
finger, not my
chewing on
lip.
mandolins, Jeffrey?
But I've definitely, like, I've definitely gotten into, I remember it being in a car accident when I was a kid. It was, and I knocked teeth out and I cut my lip open and all this kind of stuff. It was awful and it was painful, but it was like a thing where, like, you get through the traumatic pain, right? You always remember it, and the trauma is sort of there for bad pain, or especially something where your body is being hurt. But this scene is so scary to have scissors so close to such a sensitive body part. It made me think of the scissor scene in Raw,
Oh,
which is,
yeah.
I didn't, the fingernail shit in horror movies bothers me, but
Yep.
it doesn't get to me quite like scissors near body parts.
Yeah.
When we watched
Needles near eyes.
Needles near eyes,
Thank you, Coraline.
Demons, the straight razor next to the nipple.
Oh, yeah.
But scissors near this mouth, just all of that, like, viscerally, like, it makes me cringe. It's so hard. Oof.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The face is the second most intimate part of a human body, besides like your bathing suit area.
Right.
Like, honestly, with the exception of your parents or someone you are married to, or, like someone you love, who touches your face? Who goes near your face? If they do, they're probably up to no good.
Yeah.
Creeps do, Winona. Creeps do.
Wait, keep going. I have to let a cat out of my room. Speaking of creeps, hold on.
Creep. Okay, everybody. We're going to take a poll while Jeffrey is gone. What part of your body do you not want these kids to fuck with? Like, you're taped to the bed. Yep, Achilles tendon. You've got like some armpit. Oh God, that's so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feet,
It's just,
eyes. I was thinking eyes. Yeah. Wrist veins, elbow. Oh, elbow. Belly button. Well, they like fucking, they pour like those cockroaches into her belly button. That's where I was like,
nope.
Okay, this movie is not what it thought it was. What I thought it was.
They say, this is where they have the "please prove to us you're our mother."
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know how to do that. And he says, what is Lucas's favorite song? And she says, Lullaby and Goodnight.
Oh my God. Okay, lame.
But
also, like, I don't know, Baby Shark. Like,
I don't know.
Who the fuck knows what goes? I don't know.
He's like, nope. He tapes her mouth back up and says, no, it's this, and it's some shit. And they sing the song. It's just like
the song from the beginning, right?
Yeah. No, the song from the beginning has Lullaby and Goodnight in it, right? Is it the same song?
I thought it was. I mean, I didn't like check, but I assumed that's what it was.
Yeah.
This kind of preamble.
Yeah.
What's even creepy is that they fucking sing it to her. They don't answer her. They sing it to her.
I would have been like Savage, Megan Thee Stallion.
Stop what you're doing, because I'm gonna ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny. Like, but
you're all making money. See. So yeah, they the next time we see her, they have her mouth propped open with like little wood dowel rods.
Yeah.
And then they're taking floss and running it back and forth across her gums. Ugh. Holy shit.
Now, Jeffrey, I'm going to prepare you.
Okay.
This movie is very European. Excuse me. If we get to Audition.
Oh no.
Think similar vibes.
But Japanese.
Just tuck that away in your brain.
It was nice doing the show with you.
Oh, we had a good run.
She finally asks for them to untie me. And Elias snips her ties while Lucas has a scalpel loaded into a toy crossbow. And then she makes a mad dash for it like they did earlier.
Yeah.
But they put a tripwire down and she smashes her head straight into the concrete by tripping over that.
Like fucking Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Evil German Home Alone.
She wakes up on the floor. She doesn't look tied down. Is she paralyzed? What happened here?
I don't know. I was just like, why have they surrounded her with candles?
Okay, yeah, they say they glued her
glue
to
her.
the floor.
That's it.
Okay.
I was more focused on the here we go, sacrifice time.
Yeah.
I didn't know how this movie ended, but I was like, when there's like candles on the floor around your head, nothing good will come of it.
Wo ist die Mama? Wo ist die Mama? Wo ist sie? Wo ist die Mama?
Wo ist sie, Mama?
Wo ist die Mama?
Where is the mama?
Where's mother?
Where is mother? God,
yeah.
that's fucking terrifying, Jeffrey.
Yeah. So yeah, she's saying, you have to believe me. I'm your mom. It's not your fault. Lucas died. And I just wrote, there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Yep.
And he says, well, what is Lucas doing right now? She makes a bad guess. Like she just says, I can't see him. I'm like, just guess. And you know what? What would have been a good guess is he's about to kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, but like his answer is what? Like, if you were really my mother, you would know.
Yeah.
Listen,
mother would be able to see him.
Yeah.
Real mom would be able to see her son.
Would she?
I don't know.
It's tough.
Lucas set fire to the curtains. They go up quick. Now, my question is the cat aquarium not filled with water, but with lighter fluid? Because that shit explodes.
I thought it was formaldehyde. Like, I thought they were preserving it.
It was okay. Well, that makes total sense.
or turpentine, or but like it made sense that it was like they were, preserving this thing.
Oh, of course. Okay, of course. Well, that exploding house goes up real fast.
Yeah.
I do when the fire. So obviously she burns to death in this house. But the shot from outside. There's a lot of exterior shots in this film that I really love that remind me of the Swedish filmmaker Roy Andersson, which is painted sets made. His Roy Andersson's films, he shoots always in studios, never on site, and so it's always built out sets that look sort of, they're almost uncanny valley, not quite right looking. They're very like true. They're very true to form. But it has to do, he plays with depth in a really interesting way that looks very two-dimensional, but it looks drawn deep three-dimensional, but it also at the same time looks flat 2D. He does a lot of that with the way they paint the set, but on the way they build the set, but also with the lighting. They do that a lot here. Like when he goes into town and you see such in focus rolling hills and bales of hay in the brightly lit town shot when they go to see the priest. In the middle of the day. And they do that here with this house that's on fire, where you can see such depth of field. It almost looks painted there, and it probably is, but painted realistically. So that 2D, 3D thing happening. The other thing that I think is really fascinating about this shot of this house is, most of the scenes that we've seen are from the front of the house, where you have these big bay windows, right? These big picture windows. On the side of the house, it's the classic, like, tiny little windows. Every little window is tiny, and it makes a kind of really disturbing monster face, almost like two tiny, like little, just like tiny eyes. A big face with tiny eyes is very scary looking. And there's something about this house that they've used the tiny windows on the big facade that I find I don't know, it's just disturbing to see things that aren't in a natural balance, I guess.
Yeah.
Or a bug face, as Winona
Talking about
says. Yeah.
anthropomorphizing
Yeah.
things. It's what we're born to do.
Yeah. So Elias is crossing through the moonlit cornfield.
Out through the cornfield.
Symmetry here, ladies and
Right.
gentlemen. And and on the other side, boy, this ending, Jesus Christ.
I love this last shot. Like, you want to talk about like a perfect example of like mise en scène, which is where
Mhm.
if you were to take the image on the screen and put it on the wall as art,
Yeah.
and mom comes walking out and she's wearing a beautiful dress. She's not no makeup, very smiley. Takes her two boys and they pose for school photos.
Yeah.
And they're very front lit. It's warm light in the middle of this, dark ass fucking creepy field. But it's like, this child is dead, alive, who knows? But
Yeah.
this is forever the image that he will have of his family.
Yeah. Yeah. Thor says, I think he died in the fire as well, question mark. Do we think that
I didn't get that.
Okay.
I mean, I thought the sort of the field seemed like an escape. I mean, it's entirely possible, but I was thinking, like, what is this child like? Like, what is this child's life going to look like 1 year from now, 5 years from now? Is he going to blend in society? Is he going to be like Jason Voorhees living out in the fucking wilderness? I don't know. That was kind of where my mind went.
Yeah.
Like, what is Good Morning Mommy, the sequel?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, psychiatric hospital. Like, maybe it goes undiagnosed. Maybe he just forever talks about his brother and his mom to people. Moves to fucking South America and it's just like, yeah, I love my brother.
Well, that's a very Austrian thing to do.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to make a Nazi joke.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally
moves
kidding.
to Australia. How about that?
There you go. Well, yeah, I love this ending. I also like I'm a huge fan of an uncomfortably long pause. I'm a huge fan of just actors just staring at the camera for a long time. Yeah, I'm a even bigger fan of the trick of taking people's pictures, but actually taking a video of them posing for a picture.
It's a video.
Yeah. Should we rate this film?
Yes, let's.
Okay. If you guys have if y'all have final comments or questions, throw those in the chat. Talk about rating this movie. Like, how approachable is this movie if you're horror averse, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being too much, 10 being completely benign? I'd give Goodnight Mommy 3 formaldehyde kittens out of 10. Like, I think it's way more disturbing than it is scary. But you do have the bugs and the dead cat and the scary mask, some jump scares, and then the torture of this woman in the last part of this film is really, really, really tense. Karen says, I think you were pro horror, like are you saying like a horror pro, still like a 3 or 4? Like maybe it should be a 1 or 2. Yeah, I think
I don't know. I've seen worse.
I've seen so much worse. It's so tough. I think if you're horror averse, anything that we rate below a 6, you probably should steer clear from.
It's the buildup, man. It's all about the buildup.
Yeah, it just, this movie like throttles your sense of comfort and safety within your own home, within your own family. It's tragic. It's dark. It's definitely not for anyone who is a parent or anyone as a survivor of any kind of like child abuse, particularly verbal, but physical as well. And it's it's tough. It's super, super disturbing. And that buildup of the violence is a tension throughout this movie. It's very taut, but it's also very arty too. Like, I kind of thought maybe we were gonna get away with a super arty psychological horror, not a torture scene at the end. I didn't, for as much as I knew these kids were disturbed, I didn't realize how disturbed how far that they were. So 3, I guess, for me, in approachability, like not super approachable at all. What do you think, Cecil?
In the canon of horror films, I'm gonna I hate to give this the ultimate insult of the 3-star rating. I think
Uh-huh.
it's like a 3.5. So like 6
Yeah.
Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
Yeah.
Because, if you've seen Funny Games, if you've seen Audition, if you've seen a lot of sort of artsy films that are well crafted, well acted, that deal in violence and go, oh, dude, if we watch Climax, like Gaspar Noé's Climax,
Oh yeah.
like the shit's going to hit the fan. However, I did find myself checking out a little bit. I had to clue in this how to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Like when I was like, oh, it's just a shot of the house again, I would kind of, my eyes would drift to my phone, and then I'd realize they'd be speaking in German and I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying, and I missed shit. So that's partially my bad.
Yeah.
But I like in discussing this movie, I think a lot has been revealed. This happens every so often, and it's more an artistic film than your average Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween.
Definitely.
So was I scared? Not really. Did I go, ugh, once or twice? So I'm going to give this 6 cockroaches.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's definitely art house horror.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely art house horror.
But I'm not running out to be like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
You must see this movie. You're going to love it or hate it.
It falls short of that super special surprise. It doesn't.
This is so gross. Taste this.
But as we talked about, there's so much to think about in this movie. There's so much to come away with. The themes are really rich. There's so much. Yeah. There's cockroach crunches. Yes, of course. So a couple of little notes here and there. Thor says, I kind of thought Lucas as a ghost rather than a figment of creation and a delusion. That was the other word. Not a figment of his brother Psyche. That Lucas planned this whole thing, was creating as a ghost, was creating this for Elias to do because Lucas wanted to get his mother back to him. Like, it's just gaslighting his brother into killing mom to bring mom home. It's an interesting MO. Yeah. I don't know that I would go that far, but I think that's a little convoluted. That's interesting. Yeah.
But hey, who knows what the dead get up to?
Who knows? They are all kids the after all. It does make sense from the point of view of like a 9-year-old. Marin says, I enjoyed the themes of duality, water and fire. Lucas is drowning and his mother's burning. Fire and water, really, really great duality there. Really great, contrast to each other. The twins, the masks allowing you to be something else. This movie does such a great visual, so many great visual metaphors. Yeah. It's wonderful at that. Well, excellent. I think that's an awesome place to wrap up. Yeah. To say goodnight, Mommy.
Good night, Mommy.
Good night, Mommy. So thank you, Cecil, for talking with me, and thank all of you for listening and supporting Random Horror 9 on Patreon. And watch Hellraiser with us this weekend for our next podcast episode coming out this Tuesday. Our June thing, we'll post a thing about this soon, but our June Patreon is going to be late June. It's going to be June 26th because Cecil is going out on tour with Night Vale across this country. So that'll be the first day we can really do this. So we'll do another one late June. So we'll be back in like 6 weeks to do another one for here. Another one of these for you here on Patreon. Y'all have a relaxing weekend with no visible murder twin living in your head or nothing. Boo!
Bye.